Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another video. We are sitting down here by the river on a beautiful summer day. And anytime you're talking about summer fishing, I don't care where you're at in the country, one of those baits that you're gonna have to think about throwing is a hollow belly frog. You know, this guy right here has generated a giant bass for me over the years, not just largemouth, but smallmouth as well. So it is a much more versatile bait than a lot of us tend to think it is. You know, generally speaking, most people would say you pick up a hollow belly frog anytime you're fishing around pads or topped out grass or thick, emergent vegetation. The reality is these are very versatile baits. You can throw them in open water, and we see that a lot more with a lot of our high-end tournaments. You see guys over the last few years throwing it much more around docks, maybe around cypress trees. Really what they're doing is utilizing the weedlessness of this bait, of a hollow belly, to put it in places that is generally really hard to put other baits. You know, it is probably the most weedless bait that we've got. And from that standpoint, if you want to skip it way back under docks, skip it way back into cypress areas, you don't have to worry about getting snagged on a lot of different branches. And what we find is it generates a lot of open water strikes as well. So I'm going to take the Swamp Lord down to the water. I'm going to show you some different retrieves that I like to use with it. And hopefully it gives you a little bit more confidence to maybe throw a frog in areas that you haven't been using it over the last couple of years, because it is a much more versatile bait than we use. So let's head down to the water and I'll show you a few different retrieves that I love to use with my hollow bellies. All right, we've got our Berkeley Swamp Lord hollow belly frog. I'm going to show you a couple of different retrieves. Now the first, since we're down here in open water, the first is actually my favorite way to fish it, and that is just walk the dog with it. A lot of quick little pops, and that bait is going side to side. So when you're getting those quick little pops like that, you're walking the dog just like a spook, and that's a great way to fish it in open water. But I would recommend working in a few pauses just like I did. You pause it, you get it working, real short little rod tip pops just like that, and that bait walks the dog perfectly. Really good way to do it, but don't overdo it. If you throw it out there and you're really popping it hard, that bait doesn't get that rhythm, it doesn't get a cadence, it does not walk really well in the water. Like, you're overworking the frog. Not a great thing to do. So the first retrieve, that standard walk the dog. The other thing I'm going to point out with those small rod tips is if you're working it slow, just quick little rod tips back and forth, you can actually get that bait to walk the dog in place. So if you've got a target and you're just giving it that tiny little pop, that bait will literally turn left, turn right, turn left, and it'll stay right in the strike zone. So don't think you have to work the bait, keep it moving. One of the best things you can do is throw it up into the target zone and you can just walk it. I mean, it's staying right by that bush. It's not moving, and I've popped it 10 times. So from that standpoint, that's one of the keys you need to recognize. In open water, you can work it fast, get it walking the dog where you're working it fast with little rod tips, and then stop it, pause it, and then get it walking again. If you want to walk it in place, you can do that. But just keep in mind, you can work this bait just like a popper. And generally speaking, if I'm in open water, that's when I would go with a popper style hollow belly. You know, you can get them with the little cup on the front, so it really is a popper at that point, but it's as weedless as you'll ever get. So that's the first thing I like to do with it. The second is if I'm fishing, say, a thick, heavy mat. That's where I actually like to really put my rod tip down and give hard pops. Now I'm standing down here in the water, so my rod tip's hitting the water, but I give hard pops, and I'm not trying to get my bait to walk the dog on a mat. What I'm trying to get my bait to do is actually push water with the back end. So a good, stiff, hard pop down is gonna push that mat and allow those fish under a thick mat to know that bait's there. So I'm not working it fast, but I'm working it much more hard and intentional. So I'm really trying to get that bait to push the back end down. If the bottom of the bait pushes down, it's gonna push the mat down. It's gonna create vibrations under the mat. The fish will have a much better time finding it's there. The key with that is you wanna pull straight down with your rod tip. You really wanna push hard with your rod tip. So it's not a real long stroke, because that's when you get your frog to fly around. It's a much faster, harder downstroke, but it's still going to be a small pop, almost like you were trying to walk the dog. So that's the second way that I really like to use it. And I think it's really important to notice you're trying to push this back end down, so that what you'll actually see is the frog will actually come up just like that. And that's one of those keys that can really generate some additional strikes. The third way that I really like to use a frog is when I'm skipping around dock. So one of the keys with a frog is that you can throw these things just about anywhere. They skip great. You can fire them out there, and you can really get them way up under docks, way up under branches. And the key with that though is when you skip it out there, a lot of times that bait now is in the strike zone. And again, like I was saying in the first part, you want that bait to stay in the strike zone. So I generally don't want to work it fast out of there. But when I do come out of the cover, so say I get to the edge of the dock and I haven't had a bite, that's when I actually like to start working it really quickly. And I'm getting it not to walk the dog, but I'm actually getting it to kind of just go up, go up, go up, go up. It's almost like an actual frog swimming. It's much more like nose tip keeps popping up. And the reason I do that is when I come away from cover, I like the fish to think that that bait is fleeing away. If I just kept my steady walk the dog, it's a real nice chalant retrieve. That doesn't trigger the fish to think that your bait is trying to flee the scene. But if I get into a fast motion and that frog tip is popping up real good when I'm coming away from a piece of cover, that lets the fish know that the frog might think they're there. And if they're gonna go for it, they gotta go for it at that point. So those are the 3 retrieves that I really like to use with a frog. Let me know in the comment section, what are some of your favorite places to throw a hollow belly? What are some of your different retrieves that you've had great success with? It is a very versatile bait. You can fish it down a bare bank just like this, generate a lot of strikes. You can catch smallmouth on it. You can throw it in the thickest gear and cover you could find. If you got little kids or beginners, you can give them a frog, let them fire it up into the trees, and you know what? They won't get stuck, and they'll generate the chance at some of the biggest bass that live in your lake. So check them out, guys. Check out a hollow belly. I'll put this guy and all my gear that I like to use for my frogs in the video description, so you can go check that out. And if you want to support the channel, use my Tackle Warehouse link for that to make your purchase. Anything I make from that comes right back into supporting the channel. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all your support. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video tomorrow for you.